Welcome to It Begins With Us, the podcast about domestic violence abuse. It is our mission to help anyone in a domestic violence situation. We started this podcast
as a safe space for survivors to tell their stories.
Completely confidential.
We can disguise your voice.
You can be off camera, and we're here to listen. Let's get started. Welcome to It Begins With Us. We are here on episode 5.
Yes, episode 5 here, and we do have a special guest with us today. His name is Tyler Perkins, and he is with the Idaho Falls Rescue Mission. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Awesome. So we have some questions for you. As you've probably heard, you've had conversations with Angelica and what her mission is, and what we're trying to do. So what you do, like, how does it tie into what we're trying to do?
Well, we for years now we've dealt with a lot of domestic violence locally, partnering with other organizations that house and service victims of domestic violence, and then we also have some internal programs that deal with that as well. So it's kind of a piece of who we are and what we do. We've been around for 26 years.
Oh, wow. And
the difference, I guess, one of the biggest differences in our organization is we have all of the normal services that you would encounter in social services, but we're faith-based.
Okay.
So, and we do that for a very specific reason. We do that so that when we have people who come through our doors that want to explore that, or that's important to them, we can legally talk to them about it and provide those spiritual resources as well.
Okay. That's so awesome that we have something available like that. Yeah, because I feel like our community is in need of it. And sometimes it's hard. We don't know what's out there, all the help that's out there.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation this morning, and so that's why I wanted to talk to you about this. Having a conversation with my friend, she asked what we were doing, and I can explain to her, and she said, "How is that going in Idaho Falls?" Because I was in Pocatello, and I said, "Well, we've had like some things here and there, some things holding us back, but hopefully it all turns out well, and that we're able to help a lot of people." And she goes, "Well, I know that we were trying to open something here. I don't know if you heard about it. I think it's called Big Mama's House."
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of, like, I read it on the news a few years ago, like petitions and everything, and a lot of people didn't want it to happen. And then it didn't end up happening. Is that something that happens here?
Well, so to answer that fairly,
and hopefully that's not like something political.
No, it's okay. Even if it is, I'm not afraid to jump into politics, but I am very concerned to just make sure that my answers are accurate. And so the reason I paused is because I know Big Mama and was involved with them several years ago when they were trying to get going. So with that, and I'm not saying that this is the case with them, but I think you have to back up a little bit. And the Idaho Falls Rescue Mission is very involved in helping other nonprofits and organizations if they're interested in getting started. And we talked a little bit about this.
Yep.
Because it is super important to, if you're going to do something, to come in and kind of do your research, learn the field, talk to people who may be doing something similar, or even doing what you want to do, even if it's not easy. Because it's really, really easy. Most businesses fail in the first year, and nonprofits can go the same way.
Right.
Because you have a big idea or a big heart for something, or even if you feel the Lord put it on your heart, it still constitutes wisdom in how you go about opening.
Okay.
And I think what you guys have done so far is really cool and special. I mean, going to the people that are already doing it, even through some tough stuff. But that partnership and cooperation, I think, is key. and I've witnessed lots and lots and lots of things come and go to answer your question that would have been really awesome in the community and provided great resources. But one of the main things that happened is, instead of building cooperation and partnerships, and that's really hard in this community,
Yes.
believe it or not, they just said, hey, we're doing this, and just kind of going it alone, which will never turn out
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. You have to have the backup for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I think that's a piece of it, a really
Okay.
important piece. And then the other part of it is just making sure you have people on your team that know what they're doing. Obviously, you guys do. I'm very impressed with the podcast.
It's
Pretty
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to say before we keep going, thank you so much for joining us. You're the second male we've had, and we don't. I've talked about before. Like, I don't want to make it about just women talking about what happened to us.
Yeah.
I don't think you've had domestic violence, right? You've been through that, or have you?
I've never been a victim of domestic violence. But I am an abuser, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and verbally. I have that past before I met Jesus.
Okay.
And so, like we were talking about, I'm very open book about speaking openly about to men and to anybody about the truth of recognizing that, admitting it, and getting over it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, good. I'm so glad that we have
Yes.
here, and I hope that there's more men that also have the courage to come and speak, because I think it's a huge thing. I feel like the last few years, even just women talking about it has been so good for us. Just breaking down those boundaries or walls of we never talk about this, and it's embarrassing. And then, so as women, I think we have an opening now, and it's easier for us to do, but men are still suffering out there, and they don't want to talk about it. They're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's a big thing to talk about.
Yeah, we don't, typical guy stuff,
Yeah.
We're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to feel. We're not supposed to show weakness. We're not supposed to talk about our feelings. I mean, it's really what our culture has
Right.
taught us.
Yeah.
And a lot of our parenting styles have taught us since we were little. And then we're in a culture even that if you do that, then you get made fun of, you get teased.
Right.
And so you really have to come to a place where you care more about the people you love than you do the people that are going to judge you or make fun of you.
Right.
And that sounds kind of petty, but it's really true.
Yeah. And I think with our mission, with Angelica's mission, and how she's trying to do this, what makes us different is because we have survivors on our team, and on our board, and so we're able to understand what people are going through, and I want to have more people that understand that, and that we can have more people open up about it.
Yeah.
So, that's awesome that you're able to talk about that, and that you acknowledge, the things that you have done wrong, and that you're willing to fix it.
Yeah.
Because that's super hard. A lot of people don't do that.
And more importantly, you're such an open book about it because you're not ashamed of it anymore. And I think that with your story and your healing and everything about you, I think you can help a lot more men be able to open up, because you never know what kind of possibilities are out there for these individuals that are staying quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times just saying something, it does worlds of healing and of lifting and cleansing of for you, but it also sometimes is the only encouragement that somebody needs.
Yeah.
We've seen it at the mission 1,000 times. You're not even trying to encourage someone else. You're just working on yourself.
Right.
But somebody's always watching you.
Yeah.
Always. I often will ask a crowd or a group, who's a teacher? Raise your hand. And maybe one person, I teach school or whatever. And I'll always say, wrong. You're all teachers. We're all teachers because we're teaching our children, teaching our friends, we're teaching people we work with, what kind of character we have and who we are by what we do more than what we say. Mm-hmm. So I think a platform where people can be encouraged and feel safe to just talk about it openly and honestly can have a lot of long-term ripple effects in a community.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So can you talk a little bit more about like what kind of people come to you, or how you guys help them, like where you go from there? Like, do you have housing, or what kind of help do you provide?
Yeah, so the Idaho Falls Rescue Mission is a parachurch company. It's a nonprofit 501c3, and we have a lot of departments or sister companies underneath that umbrella. So we have the City of Refuge downtown at 840 Park, and that's a men's shelter where we house 25 up to 25 men. We're usually pretty full. And then we have the Ruth House, which is a single women's shelter, and we house right now about 30 women, and we're pretty full. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Haven, which is a family shelter where it's moms with kids. We have a couple of traditional family rooms, and we do have some traditional families staying with us. And then we have, I think, about 8 women and with children. So we still classify that as a family. Yeah. And on any given day, we have between 80 and 100 people staying at one of our facilities. Mm-hmm. And then we have a food ministry called Serving Hope, where we serve a nightly meal to the community at no cost. And that's just for people who are maybe on the brink to come and learn about more resources and get a free meal. We have a warming station where people can come get out of the cold during the day for a chunk of the day and get some coffee and snacks and learn about more resources. And then we have a Navigate program, which is a 12-month inpatient addiction recovery program that's absolutely free of charge.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, costs us about between $20,000 and $30,000 per individual. It is a biblically based program. Mm-hmm. So all the rest of our programs, you can come in and whether you choose faith or not, it's mm-hmm. really up to you. And we decide that in case management. So the Navigate program is really where we're trying to put more energy, even though we're very limited in capacity right now. Mm-hmm. We just don't have the funds or facilities to grow it, but it's really where radical life transformation happens, mm-hmm. where people are experiencing change. Yeah. And so of course that's where we're wanting to put more energy. But in our shelters, we have 30, 60, 90-day programs where people can stay up to 90 days and beyond based on their willingness and their case plan. Everyone who comes through our doors in any shelter is automatically in a program. In the first 24 to 48 hours, they're mandated to meet a case manager, which we employ. And then we put together a case plan with them, with the individual, trying to figure out what the barriers are, working towards sustainability. And then in that whole process, of course, there's just every community partner that you can imagine, mm-hmm. From housing to mental health to everything, making sure that they have the best plan for success. Mm-hmm. But they build the plan; it's their plan. Okay. And that's one big difference. We don't believe that we can change anyone. Right. You'll hear a lot of even gospel rescue missions, which we are a gospel rescue mission. You'll hear a lot of their programs say, we change lives, or our programs change lives, mm-hmm. and we know we can't. Yeah. Right. So we say we facilitate the atmosphere mm-hmm. for life change. Yeah. And the rest is up to the individual.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think that was one of the first conversations I had with Angelica, that I told her, I love what you're doing. I just don't want you to be feel like let down if we ever help somebody and then they go back to their abuser. Mm. Because I've seen friends, You know, they'll look up to me and they talk to me. They ask me questions like, how did you leave? You know, and I give them advice, and they end up right back
Yeah.
where there's, you know, even though I'm like, they're in a more horrible situation than I was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do they keep going back? You know, but it's just everybody's at their own time. It's their own time. They decide to change when they want to, when they feel the need, when they have that courage to do it. So yeah. I haven't personally like dealt with any drug abuse or anything like that, any alcohol in my family or anybody close by, but I've seen like friends that have with their family members and stuff like that. So I know it's hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, most of the time, I'd say probably 90+% of the people who come to us with addiction issues, drug and alcohol addiction issues, or, you know, there's a lot of other addictions that Americans don't want to talk about because then it hits you square between the eyes, even if you have a healthy life.
Right.
And we address those as well. But about 90+% of the people who come from us through case management and getting to know the individual and working with them in programs, we find out that the addictions to drugs and alcohol are actually coping mechanisms. It's not the issue.
Yeah.
And a lot of them actually come from relational issues, not knowing how to cope, was never taught, you know, and anger issues and whatever pop up, different ways to deal with it that are super unhealthy and toxic. So we're really trying to be advocates in the community as in the sense of public education is, you know, don't look at drugs and alcohol the way that we've been looking at drugs and alcohol. There's a lot more behind it. And it's actually a lot of times for people who are really ready to change, it's the easiest thing. It's one of the first things to go. It's the relational things afterwards that take some real time.
Yeah. You know, and it's so easy to talk about like drugs and alcohol as an addiction, but there's people that actually like go to worse addictions than that that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of porn addiction or sex addiction or just abusive behaviors. Yeah. Even social media is an addiction.
One of the worst.
Yeah. Or spending money that you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. So we address all of those. Our addiction recovery program is based not on drugs and alcohol, but on addiction. Yeah. The term. And because we're privately funded and we're independent, so we're our own company. We don't take a lot of government. Right now, we don't take any government funding. It gives us the ability to take all of the secular good stuff that's out there, but then also take this really fresh biblical perspective and put them side by side and, you know, kind of cherry pick what's good out of this, but then say, well, from this filter, the biblical filter, here's what's missing. Yeah. And for us, the proof is in the pudding. So, for example, we don't have a lot of people in our program, our addiction recovery program, but when we do, our recidivism rate is it's almost zero. It's, you know, people who make it through our program, who stick out the whole month. They're recovered. They're not in recovery. They're recovered.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
They don't come back, and they lose the addictions. They build the right relationships, and a lot of them come back years later to work for us. Actually,
wow, that's awesome.
So we have a pretty high number of employees that have gone through our programs at some point. So I'm always telling people, look, don't listen to the naysayers. But be data driven, right? Do what works, and always be open to evolving and changing. Yeah,
knowledge is everything.
Yeah.
And a question for you, kind of in a way related and not. So I with my work that I had before, sometimes we'd volunteer for things like holidays, you know, serving dinners and stuff to the people that needed. Do you guys ever need help with anything like that?
Absolutely. We have an army of volunteers. We have a pretty robust volunteer program. We have, I think, I think about 250 active volunteers.
Oh,
That is
wow.
awesome.
Our meal that we serve every night, it's 365 days a year. We never shut down. We never
Wow.
have, not even through COVID. I believe we're the only commercial kitchen that never shuts down.
Wow.
And a majority of that preparing of the food, donations, the food donations and all that is
Yeah.
done by volunteers.
Okay.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, we have volunteers down in our kitchen preparing and serving meals to the community every single night. But we also have volunteers at our shelters working the front desks. We have volunteers in our donation center. We have volunteers doing admin work. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities for volunteers. So
That's awesome. I'm always looking for things to do with my kids.
yeah,
Because it's nice to teach them. I think it was about 2 winters ago, my middle one, she goes, Mom, there's a girl in my class and she's stinky. And her pants, like you can see her underwear. And I told her, do you realize like school just started 2 months ago and she probably doesn't have any new clothes? And maybe that's all her parents could afford. And she just, oh no. And I said, let's go find her a coat and let's go take it to the office. We're not going to say that it was us that brought it, and then she can have a warm coat for Christmas. And it like changed her mind, like she's like, everybody bullies her and everybody's mean to her. I'm like, you never know what they're going through,
yeah.
And now that when we pass by like a homeless or something, Mom, can we give them food? Mom, can we do this? And she remembers. And so we've done some volunteering, like in Blackfoot, we've rang the bell, for the, what is that called?
Salvation
At Walmart.
Army?
Yep.
Yep,
The Salvation Army. Yep. We've done that a few times. And during Thanksgiving, we help serve meals. Like we've done it in Blackfoot. So
Yeah.
I don't know here where you do that. So if you ever need help,
IFRM. Go on our website.
Yep, I got 3 kids that
Yeah.
would love to help.
We will plug you in
So.
and make it fun
Awesome.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're about impact. So we want it to, we're kind of picky and some people don't like that. So we're very protective of our guests as well.
Right.
We'll never have you do anything that's not impactful. So we'll tell you, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. But we'll try to make it as fun as possible too. So it's very kid friendly, actually. Kids love it at the mission. They come down and help, run around the kitchen and help.
That's
Yeah.
sweet.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're very fortunate, to have the things that we have, to have a roof over our head. As a kid, I went through situations like where we hardly had anything, maybe one change of clothes, and where people from the church came to us and helped us out. And I remember being so grateful, I remember I had one pair of shoes and I kicked a ball at school and that shoe fell inside the hoop, like the basketball hoop, the rod or the thing holding it. And I couldn't get my shoe back. And I had to walk around with the garbage bag on my foot till I got home. And my parents were so upset with me. Like, we can't afford shoes. We can't go get shoes for you.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, there was a neighbor that said something to another neighbor from the church. And they went and got me shoes. And so, I'm always like trying to find ways because I remember somebody did that for me.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm very fortunate now to live the life that I live, and my kids don't have to experience that. But yeah.
Well, that's a good segue for a surprise that I have for you.
Oh.
After we talked the other day, I was fumbling through my notes, and I was trying to think of ways that people I knew, ways that we might help each other, and I just was like, wow, what am I thinking? I don't know how I could forget to talk to you about it. But just this year, we had a longtime donor, and her husband passed. And he was really passionate about the kids at the Haven and the Domestic Violence Center because he had worked as a bus driver. And he had picked the kids up because we have those as regular bus stops so the kids can go to school. Anyway, we got together with her and her family, and we've created a project I can't remember the name of it now. Dang it. I was all prepared for this. Anyway, the project is, and 2024 was the first year where we collect money for some people, and this family actually donates substantial money to this. And then we have all the moms, instead of buying them clothes and buying the kids clothes, because that's good, but as close to normalcy as possible is key, right? So if in that situation, we say, well, if you were in that situation, would you rather go shopping for your kids or have strangers give you clothes? So even when we have people help us with Christmas sometimes, and they'll say, well, we want to come down and give the presents. And we're like, no way. You'll give presents to mom, or better yet, give money to mom. Let her go shopping for her kids. So this program is just that, but it's for back to school. And the benefactors of this, the family that we put it together with, they don't really want to grow it because there's a lot of resources that we don't need to compete with. So it's focused just on the family shelter at IFRM and domestic violence in the community. So since you're a new domestic violence partner, then this project is going to include 1614. Got it. Okay. I'm like, what else? Anyway, is going to include that. So in 2025, if you so choose, this project will encompass any families that you have or are working with, and the moms will be given gift cards to go school shopping and outfit their kids. And it's phenomenal, the stories and the letters and stuff, because it just gives the kids some normalcy. It gives moms the empowerment of being able to take care of their kids with no strings attached, no photo ops, none of that stuff. So anyway, I thought.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I forgot to tell you that, and I was like, hey, I'm going to mention that on the podcast.
Yes. Oh, we'd love to be a part of something like that. That is so big, because we get so many people all the time that are like, hey, I want to give you this. But you have such a good way of like, you know what? No, like, let's let the moms do it, because you get so much pride by providing for your things for your kids.
Yeah. So I know one thing was like when I don't know what religion it was or what church or anything that helped us. We were in Washington, so it's not, I don't know, here it's mostly LDS. Over there, I don't know what it was, but they took to a secondhand store, my parents, during school, so we didn't even know where the clothes was coming from. Wow. So
cool.
We never knew, until years later, and they mentioned it to us. Oh yeah, they took us to a secondhand store. I thought they were brand new clothes. Wow. But one thing my parents, they never, even though I knew because I was the oldest and I could see more than my little brothers, we never knew that we were poor, that we were struggling. And they never told us. I just knew I'd get in trouble if I lost my shoe.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Just happy to have the clothes, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Or to get a new Barbie for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's. Yeah, and they got to go pick out our presents. I don't even know from where or what. It all happened while we were in school, so it was really nice, to not have the kids, oh, somebody else gave. My parents were the ones that brought it. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. I think that would be really awesome. Yeah. We'd love to be a part of that with you.
You're in.
Yes. That is awesome. So I have a question for you. So a lot of our podcasts, they're mainly more uplifting for those that have been through something. Do you care elaborating a little bit about your journey and with your mental illness, and kind of maybe give some pointers to those out there that are kind of struggling with the same?
Yeah, sure. Let me formulate a short version. So, so we're not doing a 4-hour podcast.
We could go for days.
Yeah, right. I guess I would say, I've lived a pretty normal life. Was raised pretty poor, but not, not anywhere like in danger of being homeless or anything. Great parents, normal family, believed in God, read the Bible, super awesome upbringing, actually. Out in the middle of nowhere in the country, so we're kind of behind the times, which was like a Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer type of childhood. But just from a very early age, I was in very, how do you say it? I was obsessed with culture, pop culture, the newest thing, being popular, the latest music. Back then there was no social media. So from a very early age, I was also obsessed with just having stuff, because we didn't have a lot of stuff, and I would just do whatever it needed to do to get it. So from a very early age, I was, stealing and got into drinking and all of that kind of stuff. So I lived a pretty wild childhood really early. I mean, really early. The first time I got caught stealing, I was 8.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I was 16, it was pretty bad. They were wanting to lock me up for good. And my parents moved me out of the house at one point because they were going to, and tried to just go out and make it on my own. All that to say, it's not always people who have bad upbringings.
Yeah.
I had a great upbringing. There was no reason. The only reason that I went the direction I did is because I was really selfish, and I wanted what I wanted. And instead of accepting the traditional teachings of my father, which was, respect women, serve others, forget about yourself. I was just caught up in the culture, which is, me. And in all of that bad, toxic lifestyle, you pick up a lot of bad habits, and you literally wire your mind and your brain to that everything's about you. And when it comes to relationships, especially relationships with a woman, you're literally program your brain that there's not a value there. You don't see the value. All you see is a sexual object. And that's back to the pornography thing, which we see pornography, even in our small community, doing more damage than drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
Easy.
Yeah.
And because it's acceptable.
Right.
Because it's
not
legal.
illegal. Yes.
And it's destroying families and lives and children, and it's just horrible, horrible, horrible. There's a national statistic that I was reading, a statistic not too long ago, that said that the average child, by the time if they are exposed to devices, which now neurosciences and most good counselors are saying, don't give your kid a device till they're 16 at least, because if they have that exposure, regardless what kind of security you think you have on the device, 8 years old, they'll be exposed to hard pornography by 8. Think about that.
Yeah.
Because
right?
even things like on YouTube or even like on the kids' games, there's a lot. And I'm like, what is that?
My kids, by the time they were, 10, 11, because I didn't give my boys devices, but they were figuring out how to log into things through their school laptops. I mean, kids are smart and they know how to do this, and you can't create a bubble and try to keep them from the world and the culture, but you can give them the knowledge and raise them differently than just stick them in the culture and into the media. And so at the mission, we really have a problem with our culture, and we're very bold about it, and it gets us in lots of trouble. Our culture, I love America. We have a great country, but our culture is crap. It is based around sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Who has the most toys, who has the most money, and it's ridiculous. So anyway, that was my mentality. That's how I had, there's this cliche that says, show me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you're going to be. And, who you hang out with is who you're going to become. So if you're putting pornography and drugs and alcohol and foul words and foul language and bad thoughts that manifests out into your life eventually. So that's kind of who I was. On the outside, I was actually very successful. Everybody loved me. I was always the life of the party, super charming. Even when I was in a lot of addiction, I was functional somehow, even successful. And so for me, it was really hard because I thought I was the man. I thought I was the, hot stuff, and I really believed it. And I had no idea the massive amount of mental health and issues that I had really brought on myself and developed over the years. And so when I got married to my lovely wife, she started to find out all of those things. And, like I said, I thank you, Jesus, that I was never a physical abuser. But like I was talking to you, I think some of my manipulation and mental and emotional and verbal abuse and spiritual abuse, I think was more damaging. I look back and I'm like, geez, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but because physical abuse is horrendous, but it's visible.
Right. Yeah.
It's visible, and you can't get away with it very long. The other ones, you can suffer from intense suffering that changes who you are for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a relationship with Jesus who brought that all into clarity. He's the one that kind of slapped me around and said, "You are a bad man." And even then I made really bad mistake and kind of left my family and thought I deserved better, very narcissistic. So when all that came, when I had clarity on that, the moment I had clarity on that, it was rough. I mean, I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me at all. But as a guy, if there's guys listening to this, it's tough to realize that you're not a good person, that you don't have good intentions towards your own family, your own wife. It's hard to be confronted with the idea that you are really selfish. You're about you. And it's just a process. It's a process that you got to go through. But I will say that I think that guys make it way scarier than it has to be. I know I did. I don't think it has to be nearly as hard. I used to think it was for sissies, like, sissies talk like that. I used to make fun of people like me now. If the me 20 years ago was sitting here, he'd probably drag me out and want to beat me up because that means that he's tough. Yeah. Right. But what I realized is as I'm wrestling through all of this and coming to terms with it and then trying to give my life over to something better, for me, it was Jesus. Like, Jesus, take my life and make me a better person. I realized that being a godly man or a man of integrity and value and moral values is actually way harder to do than what I thought a tough guy was. It's so much harder. It takes so much more strength. So at the mission, that's what we do. We try to call guys out, but also encourage them and say, look, we want you to be a real man. Yeah. And this is what a real man looks like. And this is what real strength looks like. And this is what real respect and integrity looks like. And our culture is not your friend. And they're not helping. So, I wrestled through this stuff, and it took me years and years and years and years and years and years before God cleaned my life up and restored my marriage. Thank you, Jesus. This year will be 24 years.
Wow. That's beautiful.
And I could never have done it without my wife, who didn't give up on me when she should have, over and over again. And I know that's hard to even say when you're talking about domestic violence, But I think another thing about our culture, especially secular counseling now, is they tell women to give up, and you shouldn't give up. I'm not saying put yourself in danger. It's not what I'm saying. But don't go run, find another man so fast.
Right.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Go to the Lord, pray, and just don't give up. Give it, at least fight for it a little bit. And so if my wife wouldn't have fought for me, it just wouldn't have worked out. And so maybe I'm a little extra sensitive to that. But so
You're
that's
definitely very lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful
one in a
wife.
million.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
1 in a million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she went through both types
Yes.
of abuse. I've been married twice. The first one was very physical abuse, sexual,
Yeah.
every type of abuse. But the physical was really bad. With my second husband, I was married 10 years, and it was all mental, emotional abuse. So I stuck that one out for a long
Wow.
time, because first 5 years I didn't see it as much, and then I started just over and over and over, and then chance after chance, and like just he never realized, still till now, and actually he's worse now that we're not married to me than he was when we were
Oh, wow.
married. So it's like it's hard to stay and try to fight for something that the other person doesn't see.
Yes.
They're wrong.
Yes.
So-
Yeah. Yeah. And that's hard to say, like I said, because a lot
Yeah.
of these things are really hard to say, because every situation and circumstance is different. And there's no way for anybody to know really the full scope of what you're going through.
Right.
Like we used to say a lot, hey, I understand. And we learned really quick that you never say that. Even if you do, sometimes what people need to hear is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I have no idea what you're going through. My situation was just different. But the attitude is what we're trying to encourage, the behavior of don't give up, right? Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself first, and fight for things. And in the midst of all of that, there's just a lot of decisions that can only be made based on your circumstances and situations. But yeah, so I'm just a knothead. I'm a dumb guy who got caught up in all the same stuff that most guys in our country do. And it took Jesus slapping me around to realize it. And, my life is so much better. It'll make me get a little emotional. My marriage is so much better. My wife loves me so much more. And all the things that I wanted her to do because she needs to, she does that, and 10 times more now that I tell her I don't care about that. I care about you. And so it's almost pathetic how wrong we get it sometimes as guys. And if I have a lot of guys waiting in the parking lot for me after this, bring it on. Bring it on. I'm just really passionate about, this domestic violence is a two-way problem. And I think that almost all the focus is always on the gals, and I'm, again,
It goes both ways.
it goes
It does.
both ways.
It does.
And so, we need to figure out how to talk to the guys, and if they don't want to hear it, fine. Like we've said earlier in the program, you can't force somebody to change, but you can try.
Yeah.
You can try to facilitate the atmosphere and put something out there, give them a platform. And that's really awesome. I think that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
If you could give encouraging advice to anybody out there that's listening right now, what would it be?
Only one thing. That's really hard too. Well, I'm going to have to say, a million things are racing through my mind, but I've been through so many things. My wife has been through so many things, and we've been in ministry now for about 15 years in every aspect of every kind of bad. And I think the most important out of all the years and all the things I've seen, the most important thing that anybody can do is turn to Jesus.
Amen.
Jesus can do more for you than any social service, than any program, than any homeless shelter. And what he can do for you is on the inside. And what changes on the inside is permanent. What changes on the outside is just far too often it's just temporary.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I told you when I first met you, like, there was just something so bright about you, and like talking to you was just so calming. Like it felt like I was meant to be there for that. Because I mentioned to you before, like talking to other people, I don't get that same feeling. So I 100% respect the fact that you are faith leading, because I'm also leading this with faith, and and I think that you can feel that when we talk about it, and when Maria talks about it, like, it's so empowering, and I absolutely love that, and I am so grateful and blessed that you reached out to me and we were able to meet and you were able to be on this podcast with us, because it's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. My family's always been into the church, but I don't think in the correct way. It's just pretty much like they show up and that's it. There's never been like, oh, this verse in the Bible means this, or this is what's expected of you. It's just kind of like, be a good person, just go to church and that's it. And pay your dues and that's it. And I actually stepped away from the church 4 years ago because of the situation I was going through, and I just was like, his family and my own family, like, they're not who they say they are. And they don't represent what I believe like the church should be. So I just hadn't gone anymore. And then, I've been getting really close to Angelica, and I saw she got baptized, and that we never talk about the church. Like, we would just talk about, the mission and like things that we're going through, and like our kids and stuff like that. She never talked to me about the church. And there was one day we were at the gym, and I said, this is going to be so weird, but would you like take me to church with you? And I just had like a feeling in my heart. And I thought it was super weird because I've always like also been taught in my religion, don't ever leave. Like, you're not allowed to leave. That's embarrassing, and you're backstabbing everybody for leaving, and I'm sure my parents would be ashamed if they knew, like, I don't have a relationship with them, but they would be ashamed if they knew that I was going to a different church. But I walked in late, like I always do, to everything. And the music was playing, and I just can't even describe the emotion. And my life's been going good the last few months. Like, I haven't had anything impactful, bad going on. Like, a lot of the things have been fixed in this summer. Just a lot of things emotionally. Like, I've been doing pretty well. And I walked in, and I had so much emotion from listening to the singing. And I was like, this is where I was supposed to go, And I didn't know why. And I just wanted to cry. And I'm like, nope, I have to be strong. And my kids are here. And they can't see me cry. And then, the pastor started talking. And I was like, this is hitting me so hard.
Yeah. Right.
And I wanted to cry. And then somebody right next to me was crying. And I'm like, this is her time. Like, I can't steal it from her. Like, and just every time I go, it's the same emotion. And I like being there. It's peaceful. And I can't say I'm a religious person. I'm not, but it's nice being there. And I feel a lot more calmness in my heart. And so I agree with you. Like, bring Jesus in your life. And
that's awesome.
It's
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, by the way.
It's
not easy. When I gave my life to Christ, well, I didn't for a long time. I was kind of just what I call a shallow dive Christian, But when I really said that's it, what am I doing with my life? Look at it. I can't. You do it. I'm just over. I'm done. And gave my life to Jesus. He gives you a new life, but he doesn't give you the life you want.
Right.
And so for me, it meant walking away from all of my authority and my money and my companies, and walking away from all of it and coming to a weird place I never even really liked. No offense, Idaho. I love you now. You're my home. But working, for not a lot of money, even working for free for a while, doing things that people just scoff at.
Right.
It's God puts you in places and gives you a life that is impactful for him.
Yeah.
And what's impactful for him is helping save other people from what he saved you from.
Yeah.
And when people say, well, how do I know what my ministry is going to be? I say, look in the past. 100% of the time, 100% of the time, God will prepare you for a ministry where you're prepared to understand it and connect with the people because you've been through it. And if you're not in a ministry where that lines up, you're probably in the wrong place.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very true.
And I just want to say too, our culture teaches us like church is not cool.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah. I used to make fun of people
Right.
who were religious, make fun
Yeah.
of Christians. I hated church.
Yeah.
It was just,
Like I never made fun of them, but I thought it was like weird
Yeah.
to hang out with those people that
Yeah.
always went to church. And my parents made me go to church school, not a school, but like after church activities or whatever on Wednesdays. And I'm like, well, we're the weirdos in this group,
Yeah.
And then here she is. Once a week we go to church.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, I always thought that religion was for nerds
Yeah.
and weak people,
Right.
and it's just not the case. As a matter of fact, we always challenge guys. We're like, what do you have to lose? If you're such a tough guy, let me outline a schedule for you, for your life, and give it 1 week, give it 3 weeks, give it a month. Let's see how tough you are. Because it really takes strength to be able to let go of all of the crap that we build into who we are, right? And you can't have anything new until you let go of something. And that we hear that kind of cliche and we think like physically, right? But our case management at the mission is based around 4 elements of what we believe a human consists of, and that's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And the reason that domestic violence and addiction and everything else homelessness is skyrocketing, and regardless of the billions of dollars that we're throwing at it, is because we're not talking about all 4 of those. So we're literally addressing a piece of a human and then, expecting everything to work out.
Right.
And so you got to hit those 4. The physical, that's important, but it's the least important. It's the least important. And God says in his words, don't worry about that part. I know you need clothes and food. That's not what you need. And so that's the first thing we teach guys and gals, if they're open to it, is we write a T chart, and wants and needs. And we say, what are your wants and what are your needs? And they always list all of these things on their needs every single time, like, food, clothing, housing. A lot of them will say relationship. I really need one of those. And it's like, but we just help them understand, you're at the mission. We give you food, we give you shelter, we give you clothing, we give you all of these things. So you don't really need them right now. So what do you need? And just help people understand, that it's most of the time what we need is not what we think we need.
Right.
It's what we want.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to make those kind of mind shifts where our thinking is different, and then your actions become different, your behaviors become different. But it's got to change here and here first.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll get off on a tangent.
Yeah, well, we're super grateful that you came to talk to us and everything that you've had to say. I think every episode, I feel like it just gets better and better.
Yes.
And it's more impactful. I've noticed our numbers also have gone up, in each episode. So I'm super happy that you were here. And hopefully we can get more
Yes.
great guests
Yes.
to come in.
So it's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a blast, and maybe I can come back sometime.
we'd love to have
we'd
you.
love to have you
anytime.
back again. So, yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure for you joining us and enlightening the world and hopefully being able to save somebody on the other end.
Yeah. Yep. Don't give up. Everybody who's listening, don't give up.
It Begins With Us is supporting podcast for 1614 Revival Foundation.
Please leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever possible. That really helps the show reach more people.
You can follow us on social media. The links are in the show notes. Do not hesitate to reach out. See you next time.